Morning, lovely people of Ghana, and a very happy new year to you. This is the first of the shows for the year 2017. This is Captured by Women. My name is Abna Tebi, and as usual, I'm here with my co-presenters, Priscilla, Nanama, and Susan. We are so excited to be coming your way this new year, and lots of interesting shows are coming your way definitely this new year. Today, what are we looking at? A number of issues. We'll start with the inauguration of Nana Addo as the 5th president of the Republic under the 4th Republic of Ghana. And we'll be looking particularly at his inaugural speech. He gave a very beautiful inaugural speech, but there was a blot there. We're talking about the alleged plagiarism of certain statements that were made in there. We will also turn our attention to some ministerial nominations that the president has made, a total of about 25, and we'll be looking at the nominees, who they are. We'll be looking also at some ministries that are coming up which sound new. We'll be looking at the impact of these new ministries on our economy moving forward as a nation. Also, we will look at the brouhaha about the ex-president Mahama and the brouhaha about his residence, whether or not he's taking it. Indeed, he's come out to say that he has withdrawn the request to continue living in his official residence and the request for one of the bungalows as his office. We'll be looking at that, how we came to this point. And then finally, we'll look at the continued seizures by foot soldiers of the NPP, public facilities being seized by these people because they claim that their party is in government now. We'll be looking at the appropriateness or the inappropriateness of these developments. So indeed, it promises to be exciting on Captured by Women, our first show for the year 2017. We are starting off today's show with the spin as usual, and on the spin we are looking at the inauguration of the president of Ghana. I'm talking about Nana Addo. Particularly, we are narrowing down on his inaugural speech. So, beautiful inaugural speech, received a number of commendations until the point where, you know, issues about some statements that were traceable to President Bush of the US and all of that, yes. But honestly, I don't think that should take away from the message or the content of that, but it's worthy of us discussing that as well. I think people have really talked about it. But what's good about this whole thing is the fact that quickly when it came out, I think the communications director or so came out and issued an apology. Yeah. And I this is how I look at it, that people are raising issues about, you know, a whole lot of things, that it's a very big issue and that it should even be expunged from the records of Parliament, given all of that. But and that's by the defense, I mean, sorry, the minority in Parliament, all of that, yes. They have concerns, really. But looking at it with my legal lenses, saying that, yes, I think we need to distinguish between plagiarism, properly so-called, and copyright infringement or violations of copyright laws here. Plagiarism, properly so-called, or truly taking, is a moral construct as opposed to it being a legal construct. And so for me, given the fact that there's been an apology, I think that should settle things. But of course, people are entitled to their views and they would want to pursue it to whatever length. But I think you can't stretch it beyond a certain point. It can't, I mean, I wonder how far they would want to go with that, but really I think it should settle. They've come out to apologize and all of that, so perhaps we could rest it there. But of course, I think it's a lesson learned. We need to be more careful when we are, you know, we should perhaps be proofreading certain speeches. Exactly, the speeches that are given to us by our speech writers and all of that, yeah.
Well, I stand to be corrected, but this debate has been going on for a few days, and I think listening to certain wise people speak on the issue, I think in the sense they would say this wasn't plagiarized because the original person who said it, who happens to be one Mr. Woodrow Wilson, said it in 1924. And by plagiarism rules, if the person says it and the 70-year passes, then you can actually quote it without mentioning or ascribing it to the one who said it. For which Mr. Bush, I'm told, when he was making the speech, didn't even reference the original person who said it. And then again, I mean, even if that was right, like you said, I appreciated it from the point where, okay, if it was plagiarized, Eugene Ahin came to apologize on behalf of himself, or should I say the president, as a speech, the person who wrote the speech. And that's fair enough, it can go. And I agree with Abna to say that if it came up in Parliament that it should be expunged. I mean, this is something that has been apologized for, and I think we can move on. It shouldn't mar the whole beauty of what went on that day and the beauty or the significance of what the speech carried, to say that Ghanaians should unite, Ghanaians should carry out everything with, you know, the sense of knowing that we own the state. It is for us. Everything good or bad is for us. So we should, you know, take up and move on. I think it's something we can overlook. My sad part, let me quickly add, is when we make a big fuss out of it and the international people carry it and make it mar the beauty of our ceremony. That's where it hurts me, because we shouldn't allow them to do that, because, you know, they are quick to speak negative about Africans already, and something as little as this can become a big news that, you know, mars the whole ceremony. Yeah.
For me, is this substance over form or form over substance? I mean, you can call it plagiarism. People are talking about intertextuality and all of that. The point is the content and the relevance of the speech. I mean, did it relate to us as Ghanaians and where we are? Yes, it did. Did we really hear what he said and the passion with which he said it? He owned it. What he said, he believed it. And indeed, Ghanaians could relate to it. So I think we should move on and look at the content of the speech and take it from there.
Well, I just think that, you know, let's roll back a couple of months. If it had been John Mahama, whether you would have been so magnanimous.
But it happened.
No, wait, please, wait. Whether it happened or not, it didn't become an issue. So it's gone. I mean, it's like saying that if you steal and you say, oh, but somebody stole, so it's okay. Let me finish.
I'm going to make you
let me finish my argument. Because I'm saying that, I'm not talking about his inaugural speech. He could have plagiarized then. We didn't point it out. If it was wrong then, it is still wrong. I mean, you can't say that, oh, well, if somebody stole before me and they didn't catch him and I steal now because they didn't catch that person, it's okay. That should not be the argument. Plagiarism is a serious infraction. It points to moral, you know, ethical and professional shortcomings. You understand? There are people who have been stripped of their positions because of plagiarism. I mean, we can go into history where many politicians, you know, had PhDs, etc., etc. To sweep it under the carpet and say, oh, it's a shortcomings we apologize for. We have to acknowledge that it was wrong. You see, when you...
Let
me finish. Can I finish?
Sure.
Yeah, so let me finish, you know. No, not to help me. Let me finish my argument.
To help the conversation,
okay.
not you.
And to correct Susan, before you end, I just want to, because I'm a bit confused. You started off with saying if it was President Mahama, then we would have...
We probably would.
I'm confused. Yeah, because if rather in his time we didn't make a fuss out of it and now we are...
No, but maybe, you see... because it is about the times. It's about the times, okay? And at that time, we were not doing... I think what has brought the issue up has been this Melania Trump thing that has brought it up. You know, we were not picking their speeches and putting it side by side and looking it up on the internet to see whether, you know, they were actually copied or not. There is nothing wrong. Let me finish. There is nothing wrong in copying.
What do we do now?
It is to acknowledge that you copied it.
And doesn't the apology do that? Doesn't the apology do that? Doesn't the apology
no, nobody's saying there's nothing wrong with it. But you see, let us not then go and justify. If we that's how it sounds like. Oh, no. Yeah, that's how it sounds like. Okay, wrong has been done. We have acknowledged that wrong has been done. But when we go on and say, well, somebody else did it, and that. because it is a serious infraction. In academia, it's
academia. Let me quote. I think it's good for us to do a useful academic exercise here.
Exactly. Academia. Exactly.
I have the Black's Law Dictionary here, the 8th edition, which defines plagiarism, and it says that the deliberate and knowing presentation of another person's original ideas or creative expressions as one's own. Generally, plagiarism is immoral, but not illegal. It says if the expression's creator gives unrestricted permission for its use and the user claims the expression as original, the user commits plagiarism but does not violate copyright laws. And that was what I sought to do when in my earlier submission when I said,
which is fine.
So the apology is an acknowledgement of the wrong.
Of a moral
so it's not like anybody is trying to gloss it, gloss over it or whatever.
Well,
there's that acknowledgement. And the person has come to acknowledge it and says that, I'm sorry. So my question to you, Susan, is, so what do we do from here on?
Well,
do we continue talking about it?
Oh, well, I mean, we do that in this country alone. I mean, so we could go on that way.
Awesome.
But to say that, it doesn't matter.
Nobody said it doesn't
matter.
For me, it doesn't matter. You know what?
That's
it's
how it
awesome
sounds.
Ghanaians' expectations.
You understand? Wrong is wrong. It matters. It must be acknowledged that wrong is wrong, and it matters.
This is not academic.
No, it is not just about the point. It is for MPP apologists not to try and justify it and say, let's move on. We have bigger issues to discuss. You get it.
But do we not? Do we not have bigger issues to discuss?
Well, I mean, I think MPP apologists trying to justify it.
No, very well.
Trying to justify it.
Are you MPP apologists? No, on this score, I think it's amazing how Ghanaians are expecting a perfect and flawless governance under Nana Akufo-Addo. So we know he's that competent. So much so that we can't even excuse plagiarism. I think that's a thumbs up for him, if you ask me.
Very well. At this point, we'll take some sound bites on this particular issue we're discussing, and when we come back, we'll just wrap up on this segment.
I ask you to be citizens.
Citizens, not spectators.
Citizens, not spectators.
Citizens, not subjects.
Citizens, not subjects.
Responsible citizens, building communities of service and a nation of character.
Responsible citizens, building your communities and our nation.
Though our challenges are fearsome, so are our strengths.
Though our challenges are fearsome, so are our strengths.
Americans have ever been a restless, questing, hopeful people.
Ghanaians have ever been a restless, questing, hopeful people.
And we must bring to our task today the vision and will of those who came before us.
And we must bring to our task today the vision and will of those who came before us.
In your hands, my fellow citizens, more than mine, will rest the final success or failure of our course.
In our hands, yours as well as mine, rests the success or failure of Ghana's future.
So, in wrapping up, what are some of your, quickly, the lessons we can pick from what we saw on 7th
for me, I learned something new. I'm a citizen, I'm not a spectator. You hear that, making headlines everywhere. It's on social media, it's trending. Indeed, we have learned something that we are stakeholders in our governance. That's what I took out of it.
Susan?
Well, the MPP was voted for with a large majority. That means we expect better of them, and they must live up to it. They may not be infallible, they're human, but we expect better. That is why we voted out the NDC and voted for them. And so even the smallest of things, to whom much is given, much is expected. Because we expect better of them, we don't want to see any of these little things and, and say, because that is the beginning of the arrogance, and say, this doesn't matter, we are moving on. They should avoid that.
Yes.
Moving forward, I know no one, or I mean, they'll all be careful when they have to read speeches. They'll go through, proofread it, and make sure nothing of this sort happens.
Exactly. I think it's a lesson well learned, and we'll be more. We'll pay attention to details now. Yes.
Viewers, on Big Bang 1, we're talking about ministerial appointments or nominees. We do know that the president has made some ministerial nominees who go before Parliament and be vetted, and then they can formally be appointed as the ministers for the various sectors. In studio here, we have Honorable Dominic Nitiwu. He was the former Deputy Minority Leader, and he is the MP for Bimbilla. But currently, he is the nominee for Minister of Defence. Welcome, sir.
Welcome, sir. And congratulations.
Thank you.
So, before we delve into the appointments in general, we want to talk about you. Did you, per se, know this nomination was coming your direction?
I will not be fair to myself if I said I didn't know about it. But I will also be fair to myself or to the president if I say I was definite, or I definitely I knew it will come. Yes, it is true that the president had been preparing me for this role. You know, in the campaign, he actually asked me to head the team that prepared the manifesto on the security. That involved the army or the defense industry, that involved the interior, that involved national security. So I headed that whole setup. And throughout the campaign period, I was virtually speaking on campaign platforms based on that. So it was clear that he was preparing me for something. But like I said, it's the prerogative of the president to nominate and assign people to roles. So you cannot say that for sure, because you may have had some gist about it, you are sure about it, but he was pointing me to a particular direction in the way
so when you
campaign
finally heard your name, what was the feeling?
You know, I couldn't have asked for more. Truly, the fact is I couldn't have asked for more. At that the self-age in which I am, and the opportunity that the president has given me, I couldn't have asked God for anything. And if you know where I come from, it even adds to the excitement, because I can't ask for more. I'm overwhelmed. So it's the president, God first, of course, I'll thank the president and my own people who sent me to Parliament to expose me from being 25 years, first time in Parliament, to now 39 years as a cabinet. Possibly, if Parliament were to pass me, approve me, then a cabinet minister. It gives you goose.
It's emotional.
You know, it's emotional, but what can we do? That's nature. It has come. Just have to work.
Great. So tell us, roll forward a few months or weeks, you're confirmed and appointed. What would be, or currently, what is your vision for the sector? And what would be some of the, reforms, if any, that you would like to pursue?
You know, our job is made very easy because of what was captured in the manifesto. The first thing is to ensure that the president's vision, which is captured in the manifesto, is carried to the ladder. He wants a very modernized, disciplined, committed, and respected armed forces that we have in Ghana. That's the first thing that he wants to do. He doesn't want an armed forces that is politically tainted. He doesn't want an armed forces that is being controlled, overly controlled by politicians and diluting the discipline within the armed forces. That's the first thing he's always said, that look, I am a man who is a Democrat. I'm a very disciplined person, and I'm a man who believes in the rule of law. So apply that in the field in which we are going. And you know the armed forces is a very disciplined institution. They respect laws, they are very strict jackets, and then they are prepared to die for us. But they can only do that when the laws and regulations are well respected. And if you are the head of that place, and you remember that, that ministry is the only ministry where the president is actually the head of the ministry, because he's the commander-in-chief. When you look at the organogram of that ministry, the president is the commander-in-chief, followed by the minister, the deputy minister, and then the others go. The commanders, the chief, CDS, then the commanders, and all the others come aboard. So you have to give leadership, but give leadership hoping that the president's vision is achieved. But of course, there are certain basic things that we've got to do for our people in the security forces, particularly within the army. If you have ever gone to a military barracks, now, I'm talking of now, you'll be amazed and you'll be embarrassed. They don't have decent accommodation. It's one of the worst things as a country that we allowed ourselves to fall into that trap, and it should never have happened in the first place. Because look, you go to Kumasi, they are in the middle of town. Go to Bemakam, they are in the middle of town. Let's just use Kumasi for example, or Takrade for example. They visit their friends, and they are living in posh houses, they are living in luxurious houses, air-conditioned houses, and you come to, especially the other ranks, and people up to today, some people are still living in dilapidated structures. People go and use KVIP. Look, let me give you an example. If you go and rent a room today, your landlord will say, well, you can create a washroom in your room, your single room, right? And you have people who you want to go and defend you, and these people have to go and queue to be able to go to the toilet and go and be cleaning.
Wow.
KVIPs.
So hearing
these are things that we should not allow at all. Simple things. Sanitation, accommodation, welfare matters. Simple things that we should be doing. For some reason, we've taken these things for granted. So these are the things we should quickly change. I mean, we are not a country that is very, very rich. So you cannot be promising huge things. But the simple things, accommodation, sanitation, water, electricity, solving issues to do with their children and education, making sure the system works.
So hearing you, it looks like you're quite in touch with the ministry you're going to head. And I see that the president's approach, he mentions the name, he speaks about them, their qualification, and perhaps the relevant experience they bring to bear in the specific ministry they are being sent to. You seem quite, prepared for this.
What this current president did, which was good, is that prior to this particular campaign, we were quite positive we were going to win. And if you were going to win, then you needed to prepare the people well ahead of time. So he assigned most of the people he envisaged to be the sector ministers in those particular areas as part of the sector committees that worked on the manifesto. So I had to travel across the whole country, assessing their problems, looking at their needs, consulting people, getting to the old generals, putting them together, knowing what is there. So within that whole period of 1 year, you needed to know exactly what the problems are, what the solutions are, and I was a bit lucky to be part of the manifesto team. And because I was the head, I needed to go and defend whatever I said. If I said, for example, we put in, for example, we call something the Barracks Regeneration Program. That is to give them good accommodation. I had to defend where I'll get the resources from. Because remember, he's not a man who wants to go out borrowing too much of money. He's not a man who wants to go and bring so much debt. So you have to be smart enough to know where will you get the resources from. How are you going to do it? Is it a PPP program? Is it a program that you want to use the 48 and 49 Engineering Regiment? What is it that you want to do? Are you going to use the soldiers themselves? Are you going to give it to contractors? These are the things that the president did. And so you will realize that most of the ministers that he's mentioning are people who worked over the last 1 year in the very sectors that are working. So I'm not saying that they're abreast with all the issues.
You
but
were on the committee for defense.
I was not just committee for I was the head of the committee for...
No, I mean in parliament.
No, I was not.
Oh, okay.
I was not. Of course, I came across issues to do with conflict and management because I trained in Germany at that. I went to learn in those areas.
Okay, let me ask this. You talk about the overall, the overarching influence of politics in the army. But, from Lieutenant Colonel going up, it's political. I mean, how are you going to move away from that? Because, yes, it may be meritorious in some way, but it also depends on the color that you portray.
You see, if we allow politics to eat so much into what we do, especially our armed forces, and they're not professional, we're going to have a problem. That means they're loyal to politicians and not loyal to the state. You must get the armed forces to be loyal to the state and not the politicians. Because today you may be the president, tomorrow she's going to be the president. So if you have a CDS, that CDS must be loyal to the state.
That is understandable.
I'm giving you an example. I'm giving you an example.
From the promotions going before you get to the place where you can be a CDS, that is political.
I'm giving you an example. If you have a system that's working, if you have a system that is working, it's a bit very difficult for the politician to know that, well, this person is NDC, this person is MPP, this person is this. If you dilute the system of politics, then the people take advantage of politics. But if you allow the system to be working itself, it's difficult. So the president would appoint people, but you appoint people on merit. If you start to get your armed forces grumbling, because I came in 79, and someone who came in 81 has been jumped over me because the person is being perceived to be NPP or NDC, you're just going to create a problem. And my president, or our president today, has clearly said that I want to be very professional. So go and do your professional job. That's it. And we are determined to do that professional job.
Very well. Honorable, there seems to be some multiplicity of roles, or let me say, we're not too sure about when it comes to Minister of Interior, you know, everything to do with state security. We have National Security Advisor, we have National Security Coordinator. You know, these very 5 categories, they overlap. Can you really explain to Ghanaians or help us understand why we need all these and how your roles will not necessarily be interlaced or will not overlap?
The military, for example, the Ministry of Defense is about the military matters. So we all understand soldiers, about soldiers and civilian people, working with them, how to interact with the civilian and defend the territorial integrity.
But the Navy is also part of
Navy is part of the Ghana Armed Forces. We have 3 sectors. We have the Army itself, we have the Air Force, and we have the Navy. The Navy are those who deal with waters and those kind of stuff. Air Forces are those who deal with the air, and then the Army itself deals with that. So that's the Ghana Armed Forces. We have civilians who are working with them. We have civilian employees who are working with them as well. But the whole head is the MOD. Then we have Army Headquarters. Army Headquarters has a CDS. It mimics what is like the presidency. The CDS is like the president. Then he has a chief of staff. A chief of staff. Then we have commanders. The commanders are 3. We have the Army, which we normally call Army Commander. Then we have the Air Force Commander. We have the Navy, like that. You have that kind of stuff.
Interior.
The interior is basically to do with within the state. Okay, like the police, like the other parastatal, like fire service, like fire service and all those other stuff. Then we have the national security itself. That is to make sure that the state is secured, national security itself, intelligence, that kind of stuff. The CID is within the police. The CID is within the police. So that whole setup is the national security setup. But the problems with the national security that does not have a minister is that when Parliament, for example, poses a question, who then answers that question that has to do with national security? For example,
So on that issue, what's the role of the National Security Coordinator then?
The coordinator reports to the minister.
But wouldn't that person be in a position to answer to Parliament?
No, you can't. If you're not a minister, you can't answer to Parliament.
In the past, they were under the Ministry of Interior, were they not?
You see, they were not under the Ministry of Interior. Most presidents, like President Mahama, assigned the Minister of Interior to national security. That's what he did. He assigned him extra duty to national security. So, for example, when there's a question on national security, he comes to answer. But President Kufuor, for example, had a national security minister later on, Francis Poku, if you remember, because the workings were becoming more difficult, so they decided to have a national security minister. It started that way.
Very well.
That's how it is.
Thank you for the explanation. But this will probably be the last question. Looking at certain categories that were made for ministers that wasn't there in the past government, why would you think President Akufo Addo is going that way? Because some will say it's a way to, take away monies that could have been channeled into other things, because when the ministers are going, they'll go with ex gratia, they'll go with salaries. I mean,
because currently we have about like the Minister of Sanitation, regional organization,
the railway
project
that has been taken out of transport.
You see, wait till the president has finished with his ministerial nominations and the deputies, then you quantify the numbers, the global number, and know whether he has reduced the numbers or he has increased them. I think the last count was 84. So you will know whether, in terms of the air gasher you are talking about, whether it will go higher or lower. Until such a time, you could have even 40 ministries, but you may end up having lower figures than someone who has 30 ministries, depending on how many ministers and deputies that they choose. That's the first thing. The second thing is every president has his vision, and he decides what area is important for me. Akufo Addo has decided that railway is very important to him. I'll give you an example. If you have a railway from Tema to Akosombo, 2 things it will do. It's going to shift the development of Accra towards the eastern side of Ghana. That's with huge lands between Tema and Akosombo, okay? If you plan your nation very well in that respect, I would prefer to live in Akosombo. It takes me 30 minutes to be within Accra town.
The environment is much cleaner too.
I understand. Instead of choking myself in places and then you are in traffic, there's nothing that you can do. 2, if you have a railway minister who decides that I'm going to open up the railway from, say, Eburi to Accra, to Kaswa to Accra, Tema to Accra, Adenta, that it takes you, it cleans up the system, it saves your road, no traffic on the way, it saves fuel. And so it's about the vision. The man also says in the manifesto that he intends to create a railway from the north to the south to take advantage of the Sahara regions so that we compete with our port. We are expanding the port. If you are expanding the port, Ghana alone do that. The port that we have at Tema is enough for Ghana. But you are not doing it because of only Tema. You are doing it for Mali, for Niger, for the landlocked countries, so that you can take advantage, because you are competing with other people. You are competing with Burkina Faso. You are competing with Togo. All of them have free ports. So you must do something spectacular. So if you see him creating these things, it's a long-time vision. And I believe that.
But we are expanding Tema and, the Tema port.
But if you expand Tema, if you expand Tema and it doesn't go with a railway and roads, your roads are going to spoil within a few years, because you are talking a heavy duty vehicle. So two things are happening at the same time. We are going to create a railway and then make sure that we create the other railway to Akusombo. Then the railway for Akusombo carries the bulk cargo to the river, and then you have that one to Bupe. By lake to Bupe, what we call the lake transport to Bupe. Okay.
I've always thought about the railway system. Is it not too late for that? Because there's settlements and all of that, or there's a plan for it?
If you have ever gone to Johannesburg, or you have ever gone to South Africa, or you have ever gone to London,
yes, we have.
You can see how Japan, even the railway passes through inside houses. Then you can understand.
But now houses are already
Now I'll tell you why I'm saying that. When you get to a place where the houses are there, you fly it over. You build bridges and fly it over. That's what it has always done. When you get to a place where you think that there are too much houses, you pass it under the ground. You might just think big.
That sounds like major infrastructure work.
Not too much money. Trust me, not too much money. It's about value for money. It's about value for money and the determination of the people. Japan was built by individuals who decided that we want to fight for our nation. Not so much. We don't even need salary. We want to fight for our nation. The ministers and everybody will roll up their sleeves and say, we want to fight for our
nation. We are not the Japanese.
Yeah,
you should be. No, but because the Japanese as a society are tend to think collectively instead of individually, and so they have a tradition of that, a strong tradition of that. We are not the same as Japan. But coming to talk about the many ministries, we know that sanitation is important. It was under local government to in some ways where local government was dealing with it. Why the separation now?
There's a major problem, and we have to solve that problem. But he's not doing it for just today. Let nobody tell me that water doesn't go with sanitation. So it's water resources and sanitation. Just move
that's what
that's how
water we say.
Water resources. We now have Works and Housing Minister, Atachia, and then Water Resources and Sanitation. And that one is Kofi Adam. Just move a little to Eastern region, Brong-Ahafo region, Ashanti region, Central region. That is the southern belt, and you would understand why water resources and sanitation should go together. Trust me, if we don't do something dramatically, if we don't focus a minister on it, this nation will grind to a halt in the next 10 years.
So we'll see Agalam say
the minister, that is the reason why he's put the ministers there to work. So it's for all of us to ensure the ministers work.
Very well. Before we move on to some other issues, tell us about the regional reorganization and special projects. What is that about?
The president has said that it's time to really look at the regions and create some more, because people are demanding for it. For example, Western region virtually have all agreed, and he made it a campaign promise that we're going to create a region because it attracts development. If you were to stay in Northern region, for example, you understand why Northern region is where we are and too much conflicts. It's too big, it's too unwieldy. It's too big, it's too unwieldy. It's difficult to manage, because Northern regions like Western region, Central region, Greater Accra, Volta, all mixed up in one. Okay. It's so big, a third of the land size of Ghana. So if you don't have a president who decides that, look, let's rearrange the regions, let's recreate more regions, whether it's 2 regions more, we're going to add 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or even 10 regions. All together, we're going to do that.
Yes, on that I want to come in here, because the president has promised about
at least one.
About one.
He's promised clearly in the manifesto,
in the Western,
one. During the talks, he gave indication to other regions, like OT region in the Volta, that he may create it. But in the manifesto, it's one.
It's just one.
It's just one.
So this regional reorganization minister would see to the coming into being of this additional
within the next 4 years.
Because currently you said we just have one.
Yeah, one. He
and
promised
so when he's done
one.
with that, his role ceases? Or?
No, not that his role ceases. In special projects. In special projects. We've given this nation has given Nana Addo 4 years. If he does well and he decides to offer himself to run again, and he wins, he's going to get another 4 years. These are the 4-year projects that he's doing. These are the ministries that he set up for the first 4 years. Let's wait and see what happens at the end of the 4 years. So we are dealing with a 4-year mandate. Unless we want to behave like some people who say, we are going to get 8 years, 12 years. The people of Ghana have given him 4 years. We hope to work enough to impress the people of Ghana. To give us another 4 years and another 4 years if we work. But for now, it's 4 years.
Okay, so will you be able to justify the administrative cost? Because creating regions come with administrative costs, you know, and large government. And we've been saying that the large governments, spend too much.
It's better than not doing anything about it, because the development that will come with it and the reorientation of the people and the fast-track nature of development is a better alternative than leaving it as it is. And I'll give you a reason. Since we became a democratic state, our development pace has shot up rather faster than when we were not. When we started, go and see the sort of those who got more districts, okay, like some parts of Water or some part of Upper East, and go and see their development and those with the overly big land size, and you see the sort of development that the people.
So would it be physically? Would there be like?
I'm giving you an example, and that's the reason why the president says that, look, instead of centering all the money in Accra, if you heard him always say that we're going to take the money to the districts, we're going to take the money to the constituencies, so that the money does not stay in Accra, because you are going to do proper decentralization.
This additional region, is this just going to be physical? Because there won't be any demarcation, you know, and we are talking about a global world where you should live anywhere, and there isn't a fair, balance in terms of population and occupancy.
No,
so there are certain regions which are already not too dense.
I understand.
So
Region goes with demarcation of land areas, land marks. Okay. Whether it's national land banks you're going to use or whatever, region goes with demarcation. Everybody knows that is when you get to say Damanko, that bridge, that is the end. That yes, so that's the end. You have crossed into Ashanti region.
So what does it do for the people? I mean, what is the psyche like? I mean, you get a new region, and so you get a new thinking, and so you have new resources.
I'm saying that, for example, if $20,000 were to be given to a region to run the bridge and create more roads, if we were given maybe 20 kilometers of roads to each region, and northern region is divided, say, into 2 or 3 regions, instead of 20 it becomes 60.
Okay.
I don't know whether you are getting what I'm trying to say.
Clearly.
So because development and then regional representation, our constitution says that even with ministers, there should be fair gender and regional representation. Because we want to move away from tribes rather to regions. Because within Ghana has too many tribes.
Indeed, you have said a lot of beautiful things which on paper would look good, but are the Ghanaian people, because you need the Ghanaian support and their buy-in, are the Ghanaian people ready and psyched enough for this new direction?
I think if they didn't, that overwhelming mandate that they gave.
Yes, they voted for change, but do they know that they are participants and they must play certain roles, sometimes punitive, in this agenda?
You play a big role, the media.
Or you just force people to?
No. The media, the people themselves will play a lead role in doing that. But the direction will be given by the government appointees themselves, the government and the government appointees. It's for the government and the government appointees to realize that the people of Ghana voted for them for a particular reason. And they must give policy directions and lead that effort. And get everybody on board to understand and move along with them.
We will make the laws work. So
if I decide that we want to ensure that the army is respected, okay, then the minister must set that policy, take the lead, and allow and get the people of Ghana to buy into that vision. because that's the president's vision. And you are supposed to do that. So you should buy into that vision and ensure that that is done. And that's your job. If you don't do it, the president has to take you away and bring in somebody.
So what if somebody says, all these new things, job for the boys?
I'm not too sure. If it were a job for the boys, then we shall start with the old thing where we had over 80.
We're creating new ones.
No, but we're also matching others.
For instance, we have the seizure of we have the seizure of public, toilets and toll booths and all of that, where I mean the perception is NDC foot soldiers were occupying those positions. Now our party has come. Can you step down? This is like the equalizing time, You are
right. I think next week we're starting the vetting next week. Okay, I think on the 23rd or 24th we're going to start the vetting. I'm sure I'll finish my vetting.
So this is the last question.
This is the last question. But you see, it's unfortunate. I mean, this is a president who is a Democrat, who is not prepared to go outside the law. I think people should understand the type of person they have made president, particularly MPP people. They even know him better before they sold him to the people of Ghana to buy into him. These are the things he will not encourage. But you see, that's why I use the word that we need directions. We have created a security force, particularly a police force, that fear the politician. So when NDC is in power, they will not touch NDC boys. When the MPP is in power, they will not touch the MPP boys. And that's why people are doing that. But if you created a politically neutral, motivated, dynamic police service who do their work regardless of who is in power, this will not happen.
So of course, maybe they know that the people occupying those positions are also not on the basis of merit. But it's just by party
moving forward, so what do we do?
So,
But that's why I said we must change the concept. It's important, we must change this. I don't know when there will be a change of government any longer, because when there is a change of president to the same party, we don't expect this to happen. It's only when there is a change of president or party from one party to another, from NDC to MPP, then you are going to have that kind of mentality. I think there's not incumbent on the MPP to create a situation whereby in any future that happens, it doesn't happen any longer.
Honorable.
Because now we are
that's explanation. That's theory. Practically, you are. Let's say today you've taken up as the Minister of Defense. What are you going to do to stop that?
That's what I told you, that the issue of going around arresting people doesn't solve the problem.
So what do you think we should do?
I'm saying that it doesn't solve the problem.
But I'm saying
that if somebody infringes on the law, you let the law work.
I think
we have said it. Let the law work.
On that.
Are you getting me right? Yeah. You let the law work. It doesn't matter who he is. Let the law work.
That's what.
Are you getting me right? And it's not the minister who going to do the arrest. It's the police, and that's why you must give the police and the security forces the confidence that when they do what they're supposed to do, they will not be victimized.
That's it.
You understand?
Very well. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Very well. Thank you so much, Honorable Dominic Nitiwu, for being here with us and shedding more light on the various ministerial appointments and what you also plan to do in your position as Minister of Defense. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll take a quick...
the last one. The last one. My producer.
You were
about
thinking.
The women. Yes, because it was something, and I just saw that I'd written it down. We have so far, only a certain very small percentage of women. I can mention 4 out of the 25. That is disappointing.
You're going to see more.
We'll see more women.
You will see more.
Not deputy ministers.
I don't know. I'm not the president, but I believe you'll see more.
Okay.
You'll see more. Don't worry.
Very well. So again, on that note, thank you very much, Honorable Dr. Dominic Nitiwu.
Lovely viewers. So earlier on, we had news of a request by ex-President Mahama to remain in his current abode. He was asking for a bungalow in the same estate for an office as well. We understand there's a new letter where he has no longer any interest to remain in that residency. We wanted to discuss the moral grounds, the legal backing, and the antecedents that this would have set for other presidents to come on. Ladies.
Yeah.
Ex-President Mahama wanted to remain in his cantonment house, which was originally allocated for the vice president. I mean, Vice President under Kufuor Aliyu Mahama stayed there. Vice President under J.E.A. Mills, he himself did stay there, but he's, remained there for a while and wanted to keep it as his ex gratia package. What's your take? Legally, morally, what antecedents would this have said? I mean, today he said he's no more interested.
Well, so it all starts from the committee on emoluments report that was put out by Professor Edu Buando, really. So that's the commencement, if you like, of this whole business. So that's the first point of call, where they submitted a report to Parliament. Parliament was to approve, and then all of that. So clearly, this request coming in was a bit out of what the committee had actually, put out there. And so it raises issue about the, if you like, why the request in the first place. But what's interesting is the fact that Parliament, I believe, went ahead to approve that he can have it. And that raises issues. I think people have had reason to raise even the validity of Parliament's actions going or coming after the committee's report, because the essence of the committee was to come out with recommendations for that and for Parliament to either approve or not approve. So they're going on to put that in was also quite...
But if theirs are recommendations and Parliament decides to take away or to add on... So let it go back
to the committee, for the committee to do the work, as in put it in there or something. But for you to on your own say, yes, we're putting it in there, it's a bit out of...
Really?
Yes.
Because theirs is just to recommend.
Exactly, recommend.
And because, I mean, we've had recommendations of several of these committees that things have not necessarily, been taken on board, So they don't have that teeth to say that, well, what we say is final and that's it.
In other words, are you saying that so the Parliament had...
I don't know it, but I think that Parliament has more weight than that committee.
But you see, the committee is a constitutional requirement.
Yes.
So it's supposed to be set up. And given how the provision is, it's ad hoc, because every time
they set up,
a new committee is set up.
Yeah.
And so they have come up with their recommendations. They were given those powers to do that. So pretty much they had their teeth were strong enough to bite. Recommendations.
Yes, but I guess what you said earlier that made sense to me was, if I've been set up to recommend something, either you're taking, you're not taking, you're amending it, but you send it back to this committee to also evaluate whether what you're requesting or what you're bringing to the table.
Parliament would have done that, then they
wouldn't have set up a
committee. There seems to be a gap.
I mean, just go ahead and you understand. So the point is, what Parliament did, well, people have had cause to raise issues. Well, perhaps we could actually send it to court to find out exactly for interpretation as to what Parliament's role is or should have been or whatever. But the point is, it's good the President has now has brought this letter, which is saying that he actually withdraws his initial request, because I think earlier on the conversation was, well, let the President do the honorable thing and not even pursue this agenda, because it's like you are trying to, grab things left, right, center.
It was, so now that I think it was because people thought he was purchasing the house. I got the understanding that he was going to live there for his lifetime and it would revert to the state, after,
but those things are not clear.
So I guess that we need to have clarity there, because, of course, you need to house your former president in a place that befits his status. It's respect to the office.
But the question is, where is that coming from? Is it from the committee's report or
not? I guess that we need to have more clarity on that. But I thought that was the issue, that yes, he would live there, and when he passed on,
indeed, that's what the Constitution Review Committee, when they were looking at that whole thing about emoluments on retirement and everything, they recommended that yes, if indeed a president is given a house, it would be for life, so that when he dies, it reverts to the state. It's not like it doesn't go to his estate, but it comes back to the state. So I think that's what it is. But until the Constitution is revised or reviewed to give it that effect, we still have to face this uncertainties, these ad hoc nature of doing things, which is why people are, or the Constitution Review Committee actually recommended that you set up a body, an independent body that would look at the emoluments and all of that.
There definitely was a gap
an ad hoc.
somewhere, and I think it's painting the ex-president in a bad light. You know why? Because after the committee made their recommendations, Parliament, who is a superior body, went ahead to approve something else where a house was part of the ex gratia. So he thought, if a house is part of it, then I can choose whatever house I want, and that was his preference. So the gap is how Parliament got to include a house in, you know, the package, which is in variance to what the committee also recommended. But you know, we have a Flagstaff house.
Moving on, I think that's the way
a lot of resources.
You can't say when you're going that you stay there or you buy it or you give it to your family. So I think it will help a lot.
Definitely.
Well, I mean, we're talking about the vice president's place. It has been a norm, but it's not stated specifically in law that there's a vice president's place, unlike the Flagstaff House. You see? Yes. So, I mean, yes, I can't stay
but
there.
But the Flagstaff House, is it big enough? I think
the Flagstaff House, the Flagstaff House has both.
Yeah, which should be. That's what we are.
Do we want both of them in the same location at the same time for security reasons?
So far, security is
for security reasons, I think.
If not, then we should have another, in quotes, official place where everyone understands you are not coming to live here.
Exactly. And I think the house in Cantonment has served that purpose for a while.
Yeah.
You know.
Anyway.
Very well, so this has been an exciting edition of Captured by Women, the first in the year 2017. We've looked at a number of issues, right from the inauguration of the 5th President of the Republic of Ghana, Nana Addo, through to ministerial nominations. We've also looked at seizure of public facilities by the NPP foot soldiers, and also we looked at, what am I missing? Okay, so the president, the brouhaha about the president, ex-president and his going out of office, what he's to take in terms of his accommodation or residence and everything like that. Well, we hope there comes a time where we have clarity or certainty as to these emoluments in respect of the Article 71 office holders, and we bring, you know, this whole brouhaha to a close. My name is Abna Tebi. I've done this, as usual, with my co-presenters Priscilla, Nanama, and Susan. We'll say a big thank you to our sponsors, Tinatet Herbal. They are the producers of Tinatet, Tomac Mixture, and Venicare. And of course, Grant Rice Company Limited, the producers of Leap Tomato Paste. Leap Tomato Paste is good for everything, jollof, all the sauces you like. So, thank you to you, and we'll be back same time, same place next week. Until then, do have yourselves a very good weekend and a productive week. Bye-bye.
Bye.